Hi, I'm Phoenix. I've been a professional artist for about 4 years now. I'm 16 and we're live from my studio outside of Houston, Texas in Brenham. And yeah, what can I say? I really love painting and portrait and figurative art specifically. And this is my first video. So for my first video, we have a head study for a way larger piece in the future, but just right now I'm doing the head study and I've gotten pretty far on the underpainting. But yeah, I'm ready to go in and start adding color. So let's jump right to it and get going. So over here, I have my palette. It's pretty disgusting. I don't really like looking at it, but it's a good workhorse palette, and I use it a lot, so that makes sense. But you'll notice it's very full as opposed to like more academic palettes, which I really despise, which have like very few, especially the Zorn palette, where it's very few. And I worked with the Zorn palette for years and I did not like it because I couldn't paint what I wanted to paint. So I like all the options to be there for me. So that's what the colors pretty much represent. Over here is my brushes, and I only really use fan brushes. I might use other brushes like rounds and flats especially, and more filberts at the end with like detailing and stuff, but for the beginning and for most of the process is fan brushes. So if you have any questions, please ask about that in the comments below. Okay, so right now I'm mixing several layers of flesh tone. So I'm gonna have maybe the main pool mostly, and then I will have kind of several colors that I'll put outside of it. So this is the main pool right now, and then I'll have several colors that I'll put outside of it that I think will affect it the most. So I might have like a strong like purple color, because that will be like maybe the background. But the background actually will be blue. So I'm gonna have like a strong blue color that will affect this main pool of the flesh. So I think that's pretty good right there. Now also I want a dark, so I'm gonna just put a darker color. I usually start with purple. I like the purple, I don't know why. I'll have a darker color out here. And I'll mix that darker flesh tone, because the flesh is very important. So I'm just gonna start with that. Right now I'm mixing just another kind of color scenario for when, so this is the blue that I was talking about. This is the blue that the background has. I think this blue will be the color that affects this the most. So when the light hits it, it will kind of reflect this. So I'm just gonna put that right there. I also want a warmer tone, so I'm just gonna mix up a quick red that will affect the pool again. So this is gonna be kind of a darker, muddier red, because most reds on the flesh aren't really that bright in context like actual red, like say a fire hydrant. So I was just gonna mix kind of a duller red, and that's pretty much the highest chroma you'll see on the face. That's the beauty of these fan brushes. They cover like so much area super duper fast. So I can really get going. So right now I'm just putting in the kind of larger areas of color, and it's pretty straightforward, like not a lot to it. And it's pretty grueling actually. There's not a lot of interest here. But so in the beginning though of this painting, I primed everything and I put a layer of linseed oil. And that was already over top of this gray that I put down. So I put a gray over the whole canvas, and then I let that dry. And then when I was ready to paint, I put linseed oil over the whole thing. So it really makes it slick, and the paint slides really well. And yeah, it's actually very pleasant to paint over. And throughout the painting, I'll actually not use any more linseed oil or medium, just to keep it pure, because at times I do want kind of thicker paint, and when I do, I like drier kind of consistencies better. I don't really like wet consistencies, because it'll run and it just doesn't look very good. So I like the look of a kind of dry, thick brush stroke, and how luscious that can be. mentioned earlier how chroma doesn't really, in flesh, there's not a whole lot of chroma, and it's a very fine line sometimes, especially tonally. If you look at it tonally, it's not white at all. It's actually very gray. So if you look at it in that way, you can kind of get a better perspective of how flesh works. Because flesh, it's definitely orange. It has that light. Basically, if you take orange and you mix white with it, you'll get a flesh tone. But that flesh tone is cartoon flesh tone. It's not real. If you look at like a hand, you'll notice how gray and like not chromatic, basically, that hand is. So you have to kind of discern which way you're gonna push it, and you really want it to be gray, and it's a fine line too, because you don't want it to be too gray, obviously. And when you have it too gray, it looks like a zombie, and no one really believes it. So it's always good to have understanding and range. And I know, because I've done faces that are too gray, and I've done faces that are too orange. Now I can kind of discern, how to get that. I say perfect, but it's not perfect yet, obviously, but get a close resemblance to flesh tone. This is just the study, and I do the study because I want to fully kind of understand what's going on with the face. Because sometimes, you'll paint a painting, like that's a really big painting, and you're like, man, but there wasn't that much going on with the face, and I didn't really know why I chose it. But when you get older, you can kind of, or I guess more experienced with painting, you can kind of tell when a face has it, has that like moment that you're like, ooh, I want to paint that face. It has like this, zest to it. And, a lot of times, it's not really the person, it's sometimes the lighting. A lot of times lighting or the mood, the emotion that person gives off. There's a lot of different factors to it, because you look at a photograph and you're like, oh, I like that. But, do I like to paint it? That's a whole nother question. So that's what this head study's for, just figuring that out. So when I'm painting, I'm also thinking about warm versus cool relationships. And you can see that when I'm putting these blues in, they kind of seem kind of weird right now. But once I start to kind of develop my full range of colors, it will, I think it will pay off. Because I want reds that are really chromatic and warm. And that's what that means. This warm is like it's like a fire truck, right? It's a red, it's warm. Like a fire is warm. And then a cool color would be like this blue in here. This like this aqua blue is very cold. And it's in those contrasts, when you have those two kind of collide against each other, it sets things off, and people notice that. Either consciously or subconsciously, we're drawn to kind of contrast. It benefits the painting tremendously to have contrasts, and all kinds of contrasts. It doesn't need to just be color too. It can be shape, maybe a rigid shape versus a kind of round shape. Anything like something sharp versus something soft. You always want to look for those, because that will set your painting apart. That's the thing that people overlook, I think, the most in painting is contrast. Right now, I'm not really working on the eyes, because the eyes are best, and this goes kind of with everything in painting. Everything will look the best when you fully realize its environment. So what I should have done is done the background first, and then I could have done the face, and then everything would have gone together in a more fluent way. But I've done faces enough to where I don't really think I need to do that. But mark my words or whatever, don't quote me. So I'm just setting up the environment for the eyes, really. And then when I get to the eyes, they will better work better, basically, and they will, I think they'll sing better in their environment. Right now, I'm gonna work on the mouth and the nose and just see what else I can work on. Okay, so I've been working on it for a little bit now, and it's become way more detailed than it was before, but I think I'm gonna go in and push it some more and try to get more detailed with it. And yeah, really push this thing. I definitely gotta work on the eyes and the nose and the mouth and even the ears too. But for now, I've just spent the time covering the face part. So yeah, it's time to go in and start detailing. Now I think I'm gonna take the time to do the background because, like I said, context really affects everything. I'm just gonna kind of put it in its context, which is the background, which I've decided to be blue. So I'm just gonna put that in right now. Now that I've put it in its context, I think I need to adjust a lot of tones because context now just made me realize how it's not really in touch with the context. So we're just gonna go in and fix it up. So this is the finished painting. Pretty stoked with it. I think it came out really well. I mean, yeah, I'm really happy with it, honestly. And yeah, stay tuned because I will have the upcoming video. And remember, this was just a study for a much larger painting that will be coming out. It's full figure. So yeah, just stay tuned for that. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below and be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks, y'all.